Hi, I'm Claire from Be Your Purpose Coaching. I'm an NLP Master Practitioner and an NLP trainer. I love to work with people all over the world to help them go from feeling stuck to living a life with passion and purpose. Today what I want to talk about is that yuck feeling of judgment. I want to explore, why did we attract that feeling of judgment? How can we remove that unsettled feeling in the body? And what's the best way to move forward? There's definitely a lot to unpack when it comes to that energy and that feeling of being judged. When someone close to you says something to you and it's like, oh, your energy restricts, I know mine does. It's that knot or the kick in the guts kind of feeling and the wash of heat. And it's like, did I hear that correctly? The thing with judgment, there's that energy that sort of holds us back in that reaction of like, do I say something? Or am I going to be called a drama queen? I can tell you with NLP, I have cleared away a lot of my own energy when it comes to feeling judged and having to justify. So first of all, I want to explore, where did this pattern of judgment first begin? I want you to think about when you were little, the types of judgments, conditions, and rules that were put upon you on the way that you should be in this world. When you think about it, like, who made the decisions for you growing up? Were you allowed to have any input into those decisions? Or, were you pretty much told really clearly that your decision making is wrong? Maybe you're at the other end of the scale where you were told that, you were shamed for not doing enough or needing to get it perfect. It's all of these messages that we receive these judgments in such a harsh way. While they might have been subtle, the body really takes it on board and puts up these walls and barriers to make sure that yuck feeling never really comes in. What we don't realize is the rules, the barriers, the conditions that our parents put upon us were most likely put upon them and their parents and their parents. So many of these rules and barriers and conditions are completely out of date. The thing with these rules, these barriers, is that they put up a big wall, this barrier of energy, which may make us kind of feel okay if we keep ourselves small or if we just go along with, ticking the boxes, doing what the rules say. But those walls also stop us from receiving the good about being in this world. Those walls stop us from trusting ourselves out in the world. Those walls, keep us from receiving that full joy, that happiness, and they even stop that money coming in. This is the barrier that keeps a lot of our abundance from flowing in. And when we're working with the law of attraction, when we're in that playful, free, easygoing mood, that's when the law of attraction brings in more of that, compared to feeling like restricted and in that fizzled kind of energy. So with this type of work, with this type of self-inquiry, it does take someone to be at cause, which means that they function from a place of responsibility. They take responsibility for the choices that they're making, and they take responsibility for the choices that they want to create in the future. When we're at that place of cause, we're in that sense of empowerment where we can go within, we can look at the buttons and the triggers and why we attracted that judgment, and then we have the power to undo that, right? So much of us so much of society is taught to be at effect, which means that like the blame and the responsibility goes on the other person. Like the other person should be nicer, the other person should consider me more, the other person. And when the energy and the focus is on the other person changing, it really does keep us in that victim energy. Some of the questions that I'm going to go through with this video is to, grab out your journal and to be really honest with yourself, to inquire within about how the judgments are impacting you. So some of the questions that I ask a client when they come to me, maybe dad said something, maybe, the neighbor has said something or done something. They're really feeling hurt by that. It's like, how do I navigate my way out of this? What I would ask that client is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how much is this other person's judgment impacting you now? just get a sense of that in the body, get a sense of what that's bringing up for you. And then when you have a look at that number, I want you to think about if we brought that down to a number 1, what impact would other people's judgment have on you? You know, if you think about like some, your child or someone saying something to you and it's just that full heat, that reaction kind of mode, and you can't think straight and can't drive straight, can't be productive in your world. The thing is, what button have they pushed? And if that button actually wasn't there to be pushed, if we actually brought that down to a 1, going, it's an interesting point of view that they have that point of view, and it's an interesting point of view that I've caught myself in that judgment and that point of view. What difference does it make when we take out some of that sting and separate ourselves from what they're saying? The other types of questions that I would ask a client is like, where are they feeling that in the body? Has it brought up like a sense of fear, some pressure? What's really going on here? Is there a sense of powerlessness or anger, insecurity? And then ask yourself, where else in my life are those feelings, those qualities showing up? Again, maybe your child said something and you're feeling powerless. I know I've got teenage daughters. I can list out a lot of interesting comments gone my way. But then when I have to look at that and go, okay, where else in my life am I feeling that that kind of energy? Maybe it's in my business. Maybe it's in my world of money. Maybe it's in my community. Maybe it's with my parents. And just get a real honest look at where else in your life is this energy showing up? The energy of like the fear, the anger, the powerlessness. Once we can really establish what the pattern is that's going on, you're in a much higher perspective to be able to see a way out. I strongly believe that before we come into these bodies, before we even come to earth, we are part of a soul family. I strongly believe that when we look to come to earth, we see it as a school where we get to learn about polarity, time and space, something that we don't have in the spirit world. And so it's kind of exciting as a soul to put your hand up and say, great, I want to come and learn about patience. And your daughter or your child or your neighbor says, I'm going to come in as the messy daughter, the messy neighbor, insert whatever role. I'm going to come in and I'm going to teach you patience through impatience. The soul contract is designed for those buttons to be pushed so that your soul's evolution can grow and be strong and be empowered to experience what it's like to go through that evolution of going from powerless to powerful, from going from the negative being at effect state to really being the observer of your world, to having that point of view of like of being the observer. There is no polarity, there is no judgment. It's just an interesting point of view. So I strongly believe that when we come back into these bodies and we're experiencing our buttons being pushed, these are really good gold nuggets to have a look at, going, okay, what's going on here? What am I supposed to learn? And most importantly, what am I supposed to teach the other person? It's an interesting point of view, as I keep saying here, right? As a soul, one of our benefits for coming here to earth is to learn about the polarities. I want you to think about our immediate judgment on what's good, what's wrong, what's bad. Did I get that right then? The difference between love and hate, what's wrong, what's right, the good, the bad, the beautiful and the ugly. Our mind is very, very quick to put a judgment. And while these judgments are helpful to navigate through the world, it's also receiving those other people's judgments that really solidify the energy, that put us in a state of feeling stuck. It's where we've completely entangled ourselves in that polarity energy. I come back to that spiritual growth of coming to earth, and the part of our purpose being here is not only to learn those lessons, but to be in that sacred neutral. So we're not in that darkness of what's wrong, and we're not in the lightness of what's right. We're actually just in that interesting point of view. It's in that sense of awareness that we can open up more possibilities, more abundance, more exciting things, especially when it comes to asking yourself, like, how can this get any better? It's the judgment that really teaches us what we don't want, to know how good it is to get when we're receiving that really yummy energy where everything's working well and we're just in that bright, radiant energy. So, some other questions to ask yourself if you're the receiver of somebody else's judgment is to actually ask yourself, what is good about this judgment? Now, that might sound like a crazy question, what's good about this judgment? But, you know, I'm thinking about a scenario that's happened recently where someone actually brought their pet to class, and immediately I had a sense of judgment. I'm fully responsible for that. I had a sense of judgment that the class was a sacred space, that it needed to be respected, that the NLP that I was teaching others needed to be, you know, in that beautiful, sacred, you know, focus and take this on board, learn these amazing spiritual gifts, learn this amazing modality about transformation and communication. So I immediately had a judgment on that particular situation. But when I asked myself, what's good about this judgment? I can open my perception up to say, wow, I've actually got some really beautiful, loving people in this space. It's people that are really, you know, wanting to bring in and share their pets, or to share that love, or to share the experience they have with their, you know, their little fur babies. What's good about this judgment is that the people in my class actually felt free enough to share something that was really important to them. And it was only in that moment there where I can just settle my energy and going, wow, how can this get any better? So coming back to the questions to journal on, I would ask myself, or I'd ask a client to have a look at what is going on for the judger to have this perspective. Where are they limiting themselves in their choices? And are those kind of choices the choices you want to be making in your world? Again, completely different example, but if we think about somebody, you know, judging and pointing the finger at me, I would have to look at them and go, okay, what kind of choices are you making in your world? You know, you're judging me for being up on stage, or judging me up for taking my career to where I've taken it. And I'm feeling that sense of judgment. Now, I could easily go into reaction mode, but what I want to do is I want to push pause, go, it's an interesting point of view. And then I want to have a look at the kind of choices that they're making. And maybe they are keeping themselves small. Maybe they are in a place of hurt in their own world. And, you know, to try to energetically bring me down to their level makes them feel like they've got some company there. And maybe I can help them on their path out of that. Who knows? But it's just a bit of self-inquiry there to be able to resolve some of that internal wounding that happens within judgment. So to soften your energy, you really need to be mindful and pay attention in a particular way. You really need to be on purpose and in that present moment to go, okay, I'm needing to be the observer of who I am, my choices that I'm making in my life. Moving forward, when you've experienced an altercation with somebody who's judging you, it is a time to self-reflect and have a look at what's important to you about being in your energy. What are the boundaries? What are some of the conditions? And not the judgmental kind of conditions, but, you know, when it comes to boundaries, I always say, you know, give me plenty of chocolate, but keep away that strawberry muck. It's my little metaphor when it comes to what my boundaries are. I let people know the things that are important to me, what I need in my world, and I will also let them know the things that don't work so well in my world. Whenever I'm going to go and clear some limiting beliefs, or change the dance, or have that soul evolution, that personal development, that growth, I know that I'm changing the dance. So I show up differently, think differently, and I behave differently. And it is within that when it's coming forward to moving forward after you've worked through the judgment of something, part of the healing journey is to have a look within about how you want things to be different next time. What are you going to choose differently? And how are you going to show up differently? Life is a school, and it is actually all about you. So enjoy that roller coaster of energy. I hope that's helped. And as I said, I'm Claire from Be Your Purpose Coaching, and I look forward to talking to you soon.